Welcome to 10 Minutes a Day, a daily reading of the Catholic Church's social encyclicals. Today we continue with Mater et Magistra, written by Pope John XXIII in 1961. The work of farmers is a work which carries with it a dignity all its own. It brings into its service many branches of engineering, chemistry, biology, and is itself a cause of the continued practical development of these sciences in view of the repercussions of scientific and technical progress in the business of farming. It is a work which demands a capacity for orientation, adaptation, patient waiting, a sense of responsibility, and a spirit of perseverance and enterprise. It is important also to bear in mind that in agriculture, as in other sectors of production, association is a vital need today, especially in the case of family farms. Rural workers should feel a sense of solidarity with one another and should unite to form cooperatives and professional associations. It is very necessary if farm workers are to benefit from scientific and technical methods of production and protect the prices of their products. They are necessary, too, if they are to attain an equal footing with other professional classes who, in most cases, have joined together in associations. They are necessary, finally, if farm workers are to have their proper voice in political circles and in public administration. The lone voice is not likely to command much of a hearing in times such as ours. In using their various associations, agricultural workers, as indeed all other classes of workers, must always be guided by moral principles and respect for the civil law. They must try to reconcile their rights and interests with those of other classes of workers, and even subordinate one to the other if the common good demands it. If they show themselves alive to the common good and contribute to its realizations, they can legitimately demand that their efforts for the improvement of agricultural conditions be seconded and complemented by public authority. We therefore desire here to express our satisfaction with those sons of ours the world over who are actively engaged in cooperatives and professional groups and in worker movements intent on raising the economic and social standards of the agricultural community. In the work on the farm, the human personality finds every incentive for self-expression, self-development, and spiritual growth. It is a work, therefore, which should be thought of as a vocation, a God-given mission, an answer to God's call to actuate his providential saving plan in history. It should be thought of, finally, as a noble task, undertaken with a view of raising oneself and others to a higher degree of civilization. Among citizens of the same political community, there is often a marked degree of economic and social inequality. The main reason for this is the fact that they are living and working in different areas, some of which are more economically developed than others. Where the situation obtains, justice and equity demand that public authority try to eliminate or reduce such imbalances. It should ensure that the less developed areas receive such essential public services as their circumstances require, in order to bring the standard of living in these areas into line with the national average. Furthermore, a suitable economic and social policy must be devised which will take into account the supply of labor, the drift of population, wages, taxes, credit, and the investing of money, especially in expanding industries. In short, it should be a policy designed to promote useful employment, enterprise initiative, and the exploitation of local resources. But the justification of all government action is the common good. Public authority, therefore, must bear in mind the interests of the state as a whole, which means that it must promote all three areas of production, agriculture, industry, and services, simultaneously and evenly. Everything must be done to ensure that citizens of the less developed areas are treated as responsible human beings and are allowed to play the major role in achieving their own economic, social, and cultural advancement. Private enterprise, too, must contribute to an economic and social balance in the different areas of the same political community. Indeed, in accordance with the principle of subsidiary function, public authority must encourage and assist private enterprise, entrusting to it, wherever possible, the continuation of economic development. It is not out of place to remark here on a problem which exists in quite a number of countries, namely a gross disproportion between land and population. In some countries, arable land abounds, but there is a scarcity of population, whereas in other countries, the position is reversed. The population is large, arable land scarce. Again, some countries use primitive methods of agriculture, with the result that for all their abundance of natural resources, they are not able to produce enough food to feed their population, whereas other countries, using modern methods of agriculture, produce a surplus of food which has an adverse effect on the economy. It is therefore obvious that the solidarity of the human race and Christian brotherhood demand the elimination as far as possible of these discrepancies. With this object in view, people all over the world must cooperate actively with one another in all sorts of ways, so as to facilitate the movement of goods, capital, and men from one country to another. We shall have more to say on this point later on. Here we would like to express our sincere appreciation of the work which the FAO has undertaken to establish effective collaboration among nations, to promote the modernization of agriculture, especially in less developed countries, and to alleviate the suffering of hunger-stricken peoples. Probably the most difficult problem today concerns the relationship between political communities that are economically advanced and those in the process of development. Whereas the standard of living is high in the former, the latter are subject to extreme poverty. The solidarity which binds all men together as members of a common family make it impossible for wealthy nations to look with indifference on the hunger, misery, and poverty of other nations whose citizens are unable to enjoy even elementary human rights. The nations of the world are becoming more and more dependent on one another, and it would not be possible to preserve a lasting peace so long as glaring economic and social imbalances persist. Mindful of our position as the father of all peoples, we feel constrained to repeat here what we said on another occasion. We are all equally responsible for the undernourished peoples. Hence, it is necessary to educate one's conscience to the sense of responsibility which weighs upon each and every one, especially upon those who are more blessed with this world's goods. The Church has always emphasized this obligation of helping those who are in misery and want should be felt most strongly by Catholics, in view of the fact that they are members of the mystical body of Christ. In this we have known the charity of God, says St. John, because he has laid down his life for us. We ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. He that hath substance of this world, and shall see his brother in need, and shall shut up his bowels from him, how doth the charity of God abide in him? It is therefore a great source of joy to us to see those nations which enjoy a high degree of economic wealth helping the nations not so well provided, so that they may more effectively raise their standard of living. Justice and humanity demand that those countries which produce consumer goods, especially farm products, in excess of their own needs, should come to the assistance of those other countries where large sections of the population are suffering from want and hunger. It is nothing less than an outrage to justice and humanity to destroy or to squander goods that other people need for their very lives. We are, of course, well aware that overproduction, especially in agriculture, can cause economic harm to a certain section of the population, but it does not follow that one is thereby exonerated from extending emergency aid to those who need it. On the contrary, everything must be done to minimize the ill effects of overproduction and to spread the burden equitably over the entire population. Of itself, however, emergency aid will not go far in relieving want and famine when these are caused, as they so often are by the primitive state of a nation's economy. The only permanent remedy for this is to make use of every possible means of providing the citizens with the scientific, technical, and professional training they need, and to put at their disposal the necessary capital for speeding up their economic development with the help of modern methods. We are well aware how deeply the public conscience has been affected in recent years by the urgent need of supporting the economic development and social progress of these countries, which are still struggling against poverty and economic disabilities. International and regional organizations, national and private societies, are all working towards this goal, increasing day to day the measure of their own technical cooperation in all productive spheres. By their combined efforts, thousands of young people are being given facilities for attending the universities of more advanced countries and acquiring up-to-date scientific, technical, and professional training. World banking institutes, individual states, and private persons are helping to furnish the capital for an ever richer network of economic enterprises in the less wealthy countries. It is a magnificent work that they are doing, and we're happy to take this occasion of giving it the praise it deserves. It is a work, however, which needs to be increased, and we hope that the years ahead will see the wealthier nations making even greater efforts for the scientific, technical, and economic advancement of those political communities whose development is still only in its initial stages.